The island of Soldor has many tracks for the engines to run on from all sorts of directions. But once in a while, weeds would grow around them and they need to be stopped, so it doesn't collect serious rust and cause serious accidents. So there's a type of weed killer tanker that engines use to stop them from growing. But they have to go slow and steady so they can kill many weeds easily. Rusty was doing that on a narrow gauge railway one day, and he wasn't a fan of it at all.
Why do we have to do this on a summer day? It's too hot to do such a thing. I feel like my wheels are going to melt.
I'm sorry, Rusty, but we have to do it. It's the Topham Hatt's order, you know.
Right, I know that, but can we at least go a little bit faster to save some time?
No can do. We have to go slow. Otherwise we won't get as many weeds as we need to.
Rusty didn't like that one bit, but he knows that it's just best to do what he's told, because that's one of the ways of being a really useful engine. Meanwhile, Rheneas was taking the passengers around the island. There were so many of them to take because it was a holiday weekend, but even Sir Topham Hatt didn't think there were going to be so many. Rheneas had to get a third coach just so the experts could climb in for a ride. He hadn't even started yet, and he already felt exhausted because of how heavy it was. When the guard blew his whistle, he immediately set off trying to make up for lost time from fetching the third coach. But even the station masters would understand why he was late.
I mustn't be late. I mustn't be late.
Everything was running nicely until he got to the middle station where Rusty was passing by. He came to a stop and whistled to him.
Hello, Rusty. Having fun with the weed killer, I see.
If only the weather wasn't so damn hot, then I wouldn't have any complaints about doing this.
Hey, at least you don't have to carry 3 heavy coaches in the heat. That's like twice as hard than what you're doing.
Ahead of him was a bridge that goes above a stream so the engines don't get wet. But today was difficult for Renes to even get over because the weed killer stuff was on the rails, other than the ground, so it was making them greasy and difficult. Renes tried to get across it, but it was hard for him and he couldn't struggle on the rails any longer, so he came to a stop and came back down at the bottom of the bridge. So his driver checked to see what was wrong with it.
The rails are slippery. That's why you're having trouble getting through the bridge. Plus, the third coach makes things more difficult for you. I'll just grab some sand close by and pour it over the rails, so it can be easier for you.
Bother that Rusty. If only he understood what he was really using on the rails.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, he isn't using weed killer, he's using Speedkiller.
His driver laughed and grabbed a bucket of sand and shoveled it all over the rails of the bridge.
All right, Rheneas, let's try going over the bridge again.
Rheneas replied with a whistle and took a deep breath.
Okay, Rheneas. You can do this.
And he started to move. He started to go slowly and carefully. Then he started to go a bit quicker when he got to the bridge. Everything went better than before, and made it to the other side of the bridge.
Hurrah! I've done it!
Great job, buddy. Now let's make up for lost time.
So they continued their run to the station. Renes was panting, but it wasn't going to slow him down. Every puff and breath he took made him feel like he was finally getting closer to the station.
I can do it! I can do it! Will the station ever come?
A little while later, they finally made it. He was breathless and proud of himself for not giving up his faith to get there.
At last, I made it.
The passengers thanked him and said they had a great time. They didn't even care that they were a bit late because they knew he did his best to make it no matter what time it was. That made Rheneas much better and knew he did the right thing.